Chapter 1, Licinianus. The Emperor. It surprises me that I once saw Flawilla as just my beloved aunt, happy, sweet, and kind. And so she was, a lovely, delightful woman, who took me in her arms and danced singing with me down the paved path to the river, whirling in and out of the flower beds that her mother so carefully tended. She loved us dearly, my twin sister, Severiana, and me. I learned why when I got older. We were all that was left of her twin brother and his wife, and she had loved him as life itself. But I never understood it as a child, for children don't understand loss. It's unfathomable to them until they experience it themselves. But there was more than that. Flawilla taught me the names of the plants, and if she didn't know one, her mother was there to ask, even as Ilia grew older and older. And that taught me a little about death, for I saw that plants had a cycle of life, and if I found that hard to relate to men and women, it lay there waiting for me to find one day, and not much later either. I was 9 years old when that happened. I was dressed early by my nursemaid, and she was talking excitedly to me as she dressed me in a purple-bordered toga praetexta. I didn't know why I was being dressed in such an uncomfortable piece of clothing. I usually ran around in a short tunic, which allowed my legs the freedom I needed to climb trees, skin my knees, and get muddy on the bank of the river. But not today. It was special, she told me. The Emperor was coming. I knew of the Emperor, but not as a real person. I had thought he was a god and so could never actually be seen. But now I was to see him, and the slave was brushing my hair firmly, telling me to be a good boy and not mess it up before the time.
"It shines so, little master," she said. "Like red gold it is."
And that was the first time I learned what colour my hair was. I said,
"Is it the same as Severiana's?"
"Of course, sweetheart. You're twins, like two sides of a halved apple."
"Then I know what it looks like."
She smiled and kissed me and took me by my hand.
"Come, Lady Flawilla and Lady Ilia are waiting. Put your bulla on. You're too young to be without protection. What if one of the night hags saw you and decided to choose you for hers when the sun goes down?"
I put the charm on quickly, for sometimes I feared that might happen. I knew I should always wear it, against the supernatural world that might wish to harm me. We went out onto the veranda, and then down to the garden, with me shaking my hand free from the slave woman's, for I was a man, I believed, and there the family was waiting for the Emperor to arrive. Flawilla, Ilia. Both came to kiss me as I was led there, and of course I hated it, for everyone could see. And Aetius, Flawilla's husband, was there, and Catigernus, a freedman, yes, but someone I loved. I did not look at Numerianus, my half-brother, who, though a little younger than I, was always ready to say something embarrassing. Cassianus, Flawilla's son, who was only 7, had been pushed by one of Catigernus's sons, knocking down Catigernus's daughter in the process, and both were sitting on the tiles crying with the women trying to calm them, and Catigernus promising retribution to his offspring. I saw Numerianus grinning, and I grinned back. My stepmother, Aurelia Paulina, looked at me sternly, but then I saw that she had suddenly hidden her mouth behind her palm and knew she was laughing. That was the beginning of my introduction to mortality, with children laughing, children crying, and boys with their hair brushed until it shone. As I look back on this scene, and the week that followed it, from a distance of 60 years, I recall that there was a sudden murmur that came from the family and the gathered slaves, for, off to our right, riding towards us, we saw the head of the column. The standards were bright red and purple and gold as they came along the road, the vines in neat rows in the field to their right, the orderly trees my grandfather had planted to their left. As it passed, the slaves in the fields fell to their knees and prostrated themselves. And then they were right in front of the stairs leading to the villa, and we, gathered before it, fell to our knees and bowed our heads. It's hard to talk about this, because I'm not sure what I actually remember, and what has become part of my memory because I was told it later by my aunt and stepmother. I remember that there was a standard with the words Redeunt Saturnia Regna, Iam nova progenis caelo demititur, written in gold on its red face. But I think this must have been told me, for though I could read at 9, I doubt I would have known or remembered this myself. I had not then encountered the eclogues of Weirgill, and I certainly did not understand its significance. But yet I do remember seeing it, and demonstrate thereby the falsity of memory. Now the man, him, I clearly remember. He rode a large bay, but one whose coat was redder than most, with a mane and tail of the purest black. It shone in the low sun, and the man on its back seemed huge, though I know he was not, and his hair and curled beard somehow mirrored that of the horses, red-brown, combed and glowing. His head was bare, no helmet on it, or even the broad-brimmed hat that most used in travel. I was on my knees, almost prostrating myself, but I could not help trying to look up and see him more clearly. And at that instant, Carausius's eyes met mine, and he grinned. Those who knew him much better than I ever did, more than once told me that Carausius, the Emperor of Britannia and Gallia, was a man who was easily loved. I can't speak to that, but I know he got down off his horse and walked to where my family knelt in obeisance, and it was not the adults he addressed, but the little crowd of us children. He looked down at us as we gazed in paralyzed fear at this man, and said,
"Now who are all of you? The children of the house? Tell me your names."
None of us could speak, but he came to me and said,
"Your nurse will tell you that you were a bad boy to look at me sidelong, but you tell her from me you were not. You were just being what a boy should be at your age, and maybe when you're older you'll be one of my soldiers."
And to each of us children, scared though we were, he stopped and talked with such kindness until he had spoken to all. Then he looked up at the adults, called everyone to their feet, and apologized for leaving them kneeling.
"As Electus will tell you,"
he said to them, and gestured to the man by him,
"I have always had a soft spot for children. I lost all but 2 of mine to the blood plague, and I miss them dearly.
I've always thought that somehow Electus should have made more of an impression on me, considering the huge damage he was to do, but on my 9-year-old mind he had very little effect. Even his name I never remembered until told it later. I only saw him vaguely. He was overshadowed by the glow that was Carausius. So what I remember most is that the Emperor turned to that man, his treasurer as I later learned, and took from him a pouch and gave to each of us children a gold coin. As I took mine, he said,
"Now don't ever spend this. Just keep it to remember me by. See, my head's on it."
I looked down at it, saw it was new-struck, and read Expectate Veni. I have it still, but the irony of those words I certainly did not see, for I did not know that he had just been defeated in Gallia by Constantius Chlorus, who had been sent by Maximinianus and Diocletianus to take back Carausius's provinces. I was more interested in the boy who rode just behind the Emperor, older than me certainly, but not much older. The slaves were now busy setting up tables in front of the house to serve the Emperor and his men, for they were far too many to use the dining room. I and my sister Severiana were watching, fascinated, she drawn to the lavish silks and clothes, I to the shining armour and shields of which, even then, I'd read so much in the classics. I wanted to talk to the boy, but I was hesitant to do so. It was probably a good thing, for there is no gap in age as big as when a 9-year-old tries to engage a boy 2 or 3 years older. Severiana, however, had no such reticence, and showed me for the first time that girls can get away with things that a boy cannot, for she walked up to him and asked him who he was. She has never been shy. I followed in her wake, interested to find out more about a boy who travelled with the Emperor. He was already talking to her,